I can remember the day that I got a phone call from the president of the business unit, and they were firing a customer, which helped build my business. I mean, we did almost $5 million, and I said, listen, you don't know this industry real well, and I don't think it's going to go well for us, and I think it'll be bad if we fire him right before peak. And he said to me quite bluntly, you don't get paid to think anymore.
Chris Petro.
Larry, how the heck are you, my friend? Good to see you. You're looking great.
Oh, God dang, it's always good to see you. Right here is one of my most favorite friends. I've known Chris probably for 25 years, probably something like that.
Yes, sir.
And we have been very involved in the digital community, not only with HP sponsored D-Scoop, but then also Canon sponsored Think, which has been a great organization. And I was heavily involved in both, and I just retired. This last year was my last year with Think, and I was one of the original founders, and we just got after it, and it was good. A lot of changes has taken place, out there, with everybody. But well, tell me a little bit about you. Because, well, first of all, let me back up here just a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Chris was a very successful entrepreneur. He had a very good print business up in the New Jersey area, and for a number of years. And then he had an opportunity to sell it, and then he sold it and worked for them for a little bit. And then he went to work for our good buddy Francis McMahon over at Canon, and I want to tell you right now, I can speak for Chris. Francis is by far one of our dearest friends, most admired human beings, and great leadership. I've always said Francis doesn't lead; it's just people following.
It's so true. I mean, you look at a leader and you expect him to have instructions, and he's got an innate skill of really just getting people to collaborate. Like he's a collaborator, and I've learned so much from him. Just if you get people in the boat rowing the same way without having to tell them how to do it, and to me that's what leadership's about. And there's none better. That's no lie. There are none better than that man. So very blessed to be with him for just almost as long as I've known Larry. So it's a good guy to work for. Sometimes I'd like to strangle him, but he's a good guy.
Oh, he's just a hell of a man, And I've said this, and I don't even know if he even knows this, but he is probably the best mentor that I have ever had. I mean, here, Francis, I don't know how old Francis is. I think he's around
60. Just turned 60.
That's right.
He's a youngin'.
I'm, 14 years his senior, and I'm telling you, I have learned so damn much from that man, and he's just been a great human being, and I'm just so glad that I had a friendship with him.
Yeah, amen to that.
It's just been wild. Well, when you left your business, and then you went to work for Canon, now, you were put in a sales role or a leadership role?
Well, so a little bit of both. Sold my business in 2017, so 17 years, 3 times tried to sell it. Called on that same community of leaders that you talked about, D-Scoop, to help me out, Bob Moore and Bob Ratzis and those guys. And to me, that's what being a leader is all about, is being able to use resources that you've had exposure to. But sold the business and made a 3-year commitment to stay with the new ownership to build the business. And I was the I was the executive vice president of digital sales for his business was about 80 million. With ours, he's about 110. So a pretty good sized company. And really, one of the reasons I chose him to sell the business to was because still young at the time, right? So in my 50s, and tried to make sure that in this industry, your name is it's very incestuous, Larry. You know that, right? So your name is your word. And he offered 3 things to me that I tried to accomplish in selling the business. As being the CEO of your own business, one of the hardest decisions you got to make is selling it, as you know, right? And you got to call on all your resources, and it's very emotional. There's so much tied to it, but that sell had 3 buckets for me that were critical. And the first was take money off the table. That's always number one, right? So a cash deal. The second is keep my customers healthy. Right? We had 3 facilities in the U.S. and one in France, and they were viable customers, and your customers become your friends. Right? These are people buy from people. They buy from people they trust, and you can't just leave them. It's not like I'm going and that's just poor character right there. That's my opinion. And the third thing was take care of my folks, right? So there are people that help me move along that I have groomed, and I love reading about them. I love seeing their success. And Alan offered all 3. Well, the problem is about a year and a half into my deal, and the day I sold, Francis called me up. He's like, "Hey, you got to come over to Canon, help me build this national account." I'm like, "No, I made a promise. I'm going to live with it, and I'll talk to you in a year and a half." And well, he sold to a big conglomerate, LSC, part of one of the Donnelly breakups, and they did not agree with the way I felt about the industry and the people. And Larry, you and I both know, here we are 25 years later, still talking friends. I come visit you, you come up by me, we see each other, and that's what it's all about. And it wasn't about that for them. And I can remember the day that I got a phone call from the president of the business unit, and they were firing a customer, which helped build my business. I mean, we did almost $5 million, and I said, "Listen, you don't know this industry real well, and I don't think it's going to go well for us, and I think it'll be bad if we fire him right before peak." And he said to me quite bluntly, "You don't get paid to think anymore." And I got right. So and I can tell you they were paying me a good sum of money. And a lesser person might have, taken that and said, "Okay, good, I'll just coast," but not me. That's not the way I work. I hung up the phone. I was beet red, so angry, because I felt like I was betraying a good friend and a customer. And Francis called me up and said, "Last chance. I got somebody else." I said, "I'm being on a plane to Boca in about an hour and a half." So I flew down there, and the rest is history. That's 8 years ago, and it was a good decision for me. So that's a little bit. That's how I got to Canon.
Okay, well, I was wondering about that, and I knew, of course, the connection with Francis there and everything, but Chris, you are so correct, because in the business, my business, when I had it going, I mean, we just ran gangbusters. All the customers were just wonderful because they knew we took care of them. They could call and they could depend. If I said, "My God, you'll have it on Tuesday," they would have it on Tuesday. Yeah. And a lot of my employees as well as I knew some of yours, but
absolutely.
Megan and Melissa and Tim and
great,
and
those just unbelievable people.
God, they just been with me forever, and I still talk to them to this day, and I still mentor them to this day, and it was just, and when I partnered with a gentleman, I ran my own business just like you for a number of years, and I partnered with this gentleman, boy, and the devil came out, boy, when I got into the middle of that and everything. And I'm telling you, you talk about, well, I don't even know if I can even say this. We'll probably even cut it out. But I'm telling you, by the time I got through with him that one time, that when he was sitting there and talking about the employees and talking about this, I let loose on him, and I'm telling you, this West Texas boy, I had him shaking like a dog trying to shit a peach seed. Man, I'm telling you, I was hot. But he always referred to, "Well, that time you went nuts on me." That was the starting of being understood that we were going to take care of the employees, and you are so correct. But there's a lot of changes going on right now at Canon. Which I understand change. And then more and more people, it's about the dollar. Getting down there.
I was brought on to build something from scratch. Francis enabled me to build a national accounts program where there was nothing, and I did it in my previous life at Icon. I did it I did it at GlobalSoft. He said, a leader is someone that supports the people they put in positions. And he said, "Here's what I want to accomplish. This is here's our target. Go make it happen." So I had to interview the best of the best salespeople and bring them in, tell them what I was going to do. Then I had to go to each of the operational divisions within Canon, and Canon's a multi-billion, it's $39 billion, and you got a lot of silos you have to break down. And I'm happy to say last year we were almost 54% of the total revenue base of our operating unit. I did it with 4 salespeople and about 15 people around them. So, but I think as an entrepreneur, Larry, you said it the best. You have a responsibility to people, right? Everyone, there's those that want to be an entrepreneur and they think it's about money and getting rich and all that kind of stuff. But being an entrepreneur above all is a job responsibility, right? You have to take care of the people that work around you. You have to hire great people and you have to mold them and you have a responsibility to make them better. Because damn it, if they're not good, you're not good. And they have to live by the same culture and guiding principles that you build your company on, right? So you've known Patrick. I mean, you know these guys, and I'm so proud of. Now I'm looking at where they are. Patrick now on my team. He'll be my succession guy. When I go, he'll take it over. So it's been a crazy ride. It started out really rough. I was taught at a very early age from a gentleman I worked for out of Chicago that said change brings opportunity. Well, change just scares the living crap out of people, right? So, and if you don't embrace it and you look, I always try to say, from the darkest places, bright lights come. But God knows we're walking in the dark for a long time before we get to the bright light. It was a rough path, but it's about as close as to being an entrepreneur as you can be. And I'm blessed for one of my mentors, who you mentioned earlier, Francis, enabled me to do that. And I gotta pass it on. These guys gotta do it too, and it's a responsibility.
Oh, it is. Hands down, and it's to a mentoring stage.
Oh yeah.
Because you're guiding them and you're telling them, and some of them grab a hold of it and understand, and some of them, think you're full of it and don't pay attention to you, which they don't succeed.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've said many times, Jesus Christ, boy, this old devil right here. I mean, I tell them a mentor, that has just lost here, there, made mistakes, well, boy, I'm telling you, you give that to a mentee, man, I'm telling you, they can just take it and they can learn from it, and
they grow. Yeah.
Grow,
Well, you can never, this is my own little saying, so I'll take credit for this. You can never really be a mentor. For that matter, you can't even be a leader unless you're led yourself, unless you're a mentee yourself. You mentor some people, and your first reaction is, I want to talk. I want to tell you what I did. I want to tell you how I led and got out of this situation. And, it becomes about you, and you could see whoever you're trying to mentor, whether it's your child, it's your wife, or it's somebody that works with you or somebody you work for, you can see in their face it starts to go south, right? And that's a sign for me. I've always learned that, all right, slow it down, buddy. It's not all about you. Let's hear what they, listening is a lot harder than talking. And it's when you're a mentor or a leader or just a coworker, you better learn to listen and you better learn to learn. So that's kind of been my little story for a while, and it takes a long time. And you got to, by the way, Larry, you and I talked about this. You got to fight that all the time, right? I mean, you're on a podcast. You want to fight because you just want to talk. You want to, or you're in a meeting with a customer. You want to talk, or you're telling the executives about something you're excited about. You want to talk. So it's part of leading, I think.
Oh, it is, and the art of listening is gone.
Yeah, that's no lie.
You know Mark Potter?
Yeah, oh, I know Mark very well, yes.
Well, I think he was one of my first guests on that. And God Almighty, he and I had such a good time. And he and I were talking about the lost art of listening. As a matter of fact, it just came out in one of his Canvas magazines. Just the month
I was one of his first subscribers.
Yeah.
So he would deliver the content, and you could personalize it, and then use that as your own communication, and then we printed it on top of it. Yeah, he's brilliant. Mark's a brilliant guy. You know those guys that play hockey though? They're a little wacky. They got a few. Something wrong with them up top.
Yeah, his boy is he's on a hockey team in Alaska, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, that's a subculture, that whole hockey thing. And by the way, go US tonight. We're playing Canada, and we're going to kick some butt once again. So I don't know how many listeners you have that are Canadian. Love you. You will be a 51st state someday soon, I think, but we're going to kick your butt in hockey because we don't like people talking about our national anthem. But anyhow, sorry, I digress.
Oh, my God. Well, you and I, there's one thing we cannot get into, and that's politics.
Yes, sir.
We're on the same team, but I'm
I know.
telling you, we would flat be ripping them up, for sure on that. God dog it, man, I'm telling you. Well, and also, I've had the opportunity to mentor several young people, and we just had at the last think we had the graduating class from Clemson of the graduate
Yes.
arts program.
Yes.
And I met with a whole group of them, and there, and I was talking to them about print and talking about this and talking about, how to run a business and everything. And I had 3 of them reach out to me, to talk to me about different things. And a couple of them, they've gone off on their own ways. But I've got this one young lady, and her name is Sydney Lilly. And she's scared to death, but she's going to be on the podcast. I've talked to her.
Oh, great.
About a thing. I said, I'll guide
That's
you right
great.
along, and
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about it. But some of them they just want to soak up that knowledge. Man, they are so tickled that you're talking to them. And one of the main things that I've found out in talking to them, Chris, is them understanding money.
Yeah.
What you do with money, and some of them will always tell me, Mr. Larry, I'm saving money, and that's okay. How are you investing that money? Well, they don't know, and I said, I'm going to tell you right now, every single idle dollar you have, you got to put it to work. So I kind of got them along on that. Oh, I got something funny to tell you. Week before last, they reach out to me every once in a while and ask me if I come teach a class there at school, and I said, yeah, I'll do that. I was teaching a group of 8th graders. It was 4 different classes, around 100 kids total. Money management.
Oh,
And
my
they
goodness.
had put it together, which was pretty nice, pretty simple, about they'd give you a card of what your job would be, it's several different ones, and then how much you'd be making. If you had a wife, how much she was making. If you had kids, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is what each kid, cost you. And then they allowed you to pick out what kind of house you wanted to live in, what kind of car you wanted to drive, what kind, if you want to sit in the front row at a concert or you want to sit in the back row. Well, and all these have different price variances.
Yeah, of course.
And then at the very
They all
end,
ran out of money, right?
all of them ran out of money. Well, they wanted the Mercedes.
Yeah.
They didn't want to drive the little Nissan, And then when they on a concert, they want to spend $350 for the front row. They didn't want to spend $30 for the back seat,
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting what all they did, and you showed them at the end, but of course, a bunch of 8th graders is like they're herding cats.
Well, we got a lot of analogies on what they could do with money, but one of the first people you mentor in your life are your kids. Mm-hmm. And my dad instilled upon me 2 very important rules of mentoring your children and relative to money. And he said the first thing is wealth whispers and money talks.
Boy, that is exactly right, and that's a good little ism, boy.
Yeah,
Exactly
and he said,
right.
you get in a room, and there's so many stories around it, right? The guy that goes to the car dealership dressed like a bag of dirt, and he wants to buy 3 trucks, and none of the salespeople want. You've seen it all, and that's the truth, because people, they imagine what you are by the way you look and how you present yourself. But it's funny, the people that have the most money that I know, you'd never know.
No.
They don't have a dime. And the second thing he said is, he goes, son, you'll come to a point where you don't live from paycheck to paycheck. And he goes, and when that day comes, he says, do not go to a gunfight with a rock. And I'm like, Dad, what does that mean? He goes, you get yourself a professional. You think you're a professional at digital printing or variable intent or behavioral tailoring, that's good. But that doesn't mean a hill of beans when you're talking about money. So go get yourself somebody that can help you with your money. And to me, that's true in life, right? Buying a car, fixing a car, doing your lawn, putting up a shed in the backyard. Just, everybody thinks they can do it. And now with digital technology, it's like I can go out on the internet and figure out how to, fix something. Of course, when we get to our age, Larry, we don't do that anymore. But, And the other thing with these young folk, and I taught all my daughters to do the same thing. I'm blessed by God. I have 3 daughters, and they're all successful. I like to say dogs don't have cats, but I know it's the wife that it's really instilled. But one thing I instilled upon them is they grew up in the digital age, right? So we're on a digital platform right now, but the digital age, I mean, when you dated a girl in high school and you had to break up, you had to get the nerve to go and look her in the eye and get your ring back and tell her no. Well, now they don't do that. Right now, it's your buddies telling it through that. There's no place to hide, right? You know, you get in a fight at school and you go home but it's on the internet. Everybody knows your business through all these various platforms. And I taught my girls very early interpersonal communication, right? Talking. You know, I'd ask my oldest daughter, and this is where it started, right? How you doing, Kristen? Good. What are you doing tonight? Something with my friends. What friends? Some of them, you know, where you go, like, and they would speak it a lot. And I said, no. I went to school. I literally went to the Bahamas for 3 weeks to understand how to talk. I said, you got to talk between a 6 and an 8. You know, you're going to get in front of an old guy like me someday for a job interview, and, you know, he's going to say, what'd you say? Like, I can't hear you. So speak up. Write notes. Thank everybody. Somebody does something for you, you write them a note. The worst thing you could do is not say anything. The best thing you could do would be a written note to them. And the skill of interpersonal communications is so critical for young people. You know, as you interview them now, Larry, right? Even in your job, whatever. I know you're retired, but you get them in front of you and you know in 2 seconds if they have interpersonal skills. And anybody can learn stuff. I mean, this old guy's learning about AI technology right now, and I'm intrigued by it. But you can't teach interpersonal skills. You have to work at it. You got to keep working at it. And you know, for me, that's what I instill on my team and my children, and I will do it on my grandchildren too. Hell, my granddaughter's loud enough; she doesn't need any help. She's just...
How many grandkids you got now?
Just one. And I don't know if my bank account can sustain a second or third right now, but I just it's the reason why God put us on earth. That's for sure.
Oh my God! You know, of course, I have 5 grandkids, and then I've got 1 great grandson, and fixing to have another one in May.
Oh, so good. God bless.
Oh my God!
Well,
of course,
Larry, I'm going to quote you for your listeners. Larry called me up today. I posted about my granddaughter, and he called me up. He goes, "Chris, I want to tell you something. This for all you guys out there." He goes, "You know what, Chris? If I knew having grandchildren was going to be this good, I would have never had children to begin with."
Well, that's a fact.
Unfortunately, you can't skip that process, right? So.
Oh my God, I know, Chris. I mean, you've got 3 beautiful daughters. They're very successful, and you know, and that comes from parenting. Period.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it's where it comes from. I mean, you got to guide those little dickens and push them along. And my daughter does an excellent job. And of course, I think I did a pretty good job with my daughter. You know, but you know, sometimes I look and say, oh my God, I'd hate to have my daughter as mother. You know, I mean, tough. You know, those
that's classic.
Of course, my little grandbaby twins, you know, I mean, they're absolutely gorgeous. I mean, very, very pretty young ladies, you know.
Oh, I know. I've seen them.
And then, of course, they got little boyfriends, and
yeah,
I've talked to those little boys. You know, I had them cornered, boy. I'm telling you, my granddaughter, she's all that. Oh, Paul, I'm not going to stay in here. And I said, yeah, are you going to stay in here?
You're going to listen.
So, but they good boys. I mean, they good farm boys. You know, they play sports, and you know they cut firewood whenever they can. You know, and they have a little job here running a tractor, and this good boys. You know, and smart.
Well, I tell all the boys, anything you thinking about, anything you want to do, anything you might have done, I have done 10 times worse. So, you know what, if you know, and one of the things I've said, 2 of my 3 daughters are married, Larry, you know that, and in my little meeting when the permission is asked, I have 3 questions, and I won't go into 2 of them, but I'll tell you the most important one, and I just did this with my middle son-in-law. I said, listen, you're a good-looking guy, you're a hustler, the kid hustles. Very important to me. He's got multiple gigs going on. He works for the NBA. He's a hard worker. He adores my daughter, but he's got to constantly be moving. I said, and somebody's going to recognize that someday. Somebody's going to say, this kid has got it going on, and they're going to offer you a big fat job.
And that job might be somewhere on the West Coast or in Canada or Europe or, somewhere else. And I said, I will not give you my blessing unless you promise me one thing. You will never, ever put yourself and your career above my daughter's happiness.
Good for you.
And he said, well, what does that mean? And I said, I'll tell you what it means. It means if my daughter doesn't want to move, then you don't take that job. If my daughter thinks that's going to ruin your marriage or your relationship or your parenthood or whatever is going on in your life, then you don't do it. And that's a commitment that I got to have. And I'll tell you, right out of college, all I ever wanted to do was work for the FBI. That was my whole life.
I remember that. Yeah. I remember that.
And I succeeded in the qualifications, was interviewed. There was no internet. You didn't send it. You sat in front of a man, and I went through the testing. I did the whole 9 yards, got the job, went home, told my parents. My father's like, well, that's great. We're moving, retiring, so let me know how it turns out. I told my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and she said, I'm not leaving. If you think I'm leaving this New Jersey and moving every 2 years for the next 14 years, you're out of your mind. So that was a big smack in my face and my ego. But the reality is that's the commitment I want, not only from my son-in-laws, but the people I work for. Right? You got to put this job above your own self-gain because we're a greater team. Right? We all got to share. And I think that's part of my success, and I try and instill it. It scares the living crap out of the boy, but
That's what you want.
That's what I want.
Hell yeah, you do. But no, you're so right. I mean, of course, my wife Jody very, very
yes.
well. And we've been together, 40 years, and drug her off a cruise ship. She was blackjack dealer on a cruise ship. And I'm telling you, she runs the show.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she has to. I mean, do I want to screw with coming home and then I got to mess with the house and everything else that goes on? And I mean, she handles all the bills, all the financing, and takes care of the maids and and the groceries, and plus she has a job too. I mean, she sells real estate.
That's another qualification of a leader, right? I can tell you without any hesitation that I would not be successful 1/10 of where I am today without Gene. While I was running my business, you remember I was the global D-Scoop chair. I had to fly to China and fly to Israel and go here and do that. And never once did she say, that's not fair. I'm here with the kids. Never once did I not come home and there was dinner. That I don't care if you're a man. I don't care if you're a woman. But the person behind you or next to you is probably the better way to say it. If they don't support you and you don't let them support you, again, an entrepreneurial spirit or a leader's spirit or a boss's spirit is always, I'm in charge. I can do that. I want to do the books. I do this better than anybody. Well, no, you don't do everything better. And if you don't let, as a business leader, the quickest I was taught in school, you cover the books, right? You watch the money in the business, the receivables and the payables, and you better make sure the checks are locked up. Nobody can steal a check and write all that. Well, when our business was about $5 million, I don't know if you remember, we had a defalcation, and my accounts payable clerk took about $180,000.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Now, $180,000 for a $5 million company is a lot of money because you're fluid and you're running stuff through, and I mean I was devastated. The first thing was, as a leader, like, how could this woman betray me? But then you got to worry about, at the time, 35, 40 people work for you, and it's like, oh my gosh. And it was because we got almost all of it back except for 20 grand. I said it's probably the cheapest MBA you'll ever get in your life, right? $20,000 I learned. But the lesson I learned was you need to trust the right people as a leader to do that stuff, and you have to set that out. And the same thing with you're talking about Jody and I'm talking about Gene. If you don't let the people you work for and you want to control everything in your little world, you're only as good as you are. And that doesn't make you a great leader. And that doesn't make you a great husband either, or a partner, or whatever you are. It doesn't matter. So that was a hard lesson for me. And, we recovered. You also learn a lot about the character of the people you work with. Like I had to write letters to my suppliers and say, listen, I'm not going to pay you right now because I don't have money. We don't have cash flow. It's going to take me 3 to 5 months. But you have my word, I will pay you back, even if I have to write it out of my own, I'll set my mortgage again. And I kept about 65% of those people, and to the day I sold that business. I mean, then we did $200,000 with them
years later, we probably did $3 million with them, right? So, and my controller would always ask me, why are you still doing business with this little podunk company here? I said, because when I was in a time of need, those people were behind me. So you got to learn to hand that off, delegate, make sure. But your job as a leader is not so much to control it, but to find the right people who can control it for you and that you trust. Same reason why people buy from you is because they trust you. You said that earlier. I couldn't agree more. That's the way I feel about it. So.
No, 100%. And just of course, one of the main things I reflect on are the people that I mean, Tim Gandry, man, he handled all the books, all the money, took care of everything, and what he has come today. Of course, he worked for me for a number of years, and then when I sold the business, well, he stayed with me for about a year, and then he went on and became a financial advisor for Northwestern Mutual.
Got more money than both of us, probably.
I mean, he's a smart kid.
Yeah.
I mean, the real smart kid, and he does. He got more money than both of us, and he handles it well. He's got him a team of, I think, 8 people, I think, that help him, manage the customers, and the investments and things. So, yeah,
makes you proud, doesn't it?
Oh, my God, it makes me proud. Man, I talk to him probably 2 or 3 times a week. We laugh and, of course, go fishing and everything else, And then, of course, I look back, and the kids that I've mentored, and then Megan. You know Megan very well.
I know Megan. She's unbelievable.
Oh, my God. And you talk about the entrepreneurial spirit, and just like you said, you just know when you interview.
You know it in a minute, yeah.
Because when she came in, I had a guy that worked in pre-press, and he said, Larry, I got a young lady that I went to school with, and she just graduated, and, she looking for a job. She's working in Dallas, but she's from Abilene, a little old West Texas town. And
hell of a basketball player too, I might add.
Oh, I'm telling you, she still might hold the record of the number 3-point shots that were made on that school year. You know, I mean, she just sharp as a tack, and that's when I sat down and talked to her for 10 minutes, and I went and grabbed Tim Gandry, and I said, hire. I'll find a spot for her. I said, that's a diamond in the rough, buddy. And I'm so glad that, we came in and hired her. And she's doing very well now. She's an entrepreneur.
She's awesome.
Business here, business there. And so it's a lot of fun to work with those people, get them to where they are, and then for them to call you and say thank you.
Yep.
It's a big difference on that. It surely is. Well, what do you see going forward? Because I talked to a lot of guys. One of them, he was real pretty knowledgeable on he's talking about leaders and everything. He says, well, you got to stay curious. He said, constantly, you got to stay curious, see what's out there, see what's happening. And I see a lot of this AI stuff. I do a little bit of it, but I'm not smart enough to do a whole bunch of it, But it's kind of interesting what all you can put together, and it's just almost magical, scary magical. Of what it does.
Well, yeah. I mean, AI is amazing. As a leader, the one thing I can say that's definitive, because it's moving. It moves every single second. It's changing, and people are coming in, and people are weirded out by it, and they're scared, and they're excited, and they use it the wrong way, and just a rush of emotions. The only thing I can say that's the most definitive about AI technologies, in my humble opinion, is you can't ignore it. Right? I can tell you a statement of fact, in a year from now, it's going to permeate everything that we all do. And in 2 years from now, it might be driving. And it's like any other tool. It's no different than this pen, right? It's no different than that computer. It's no different than, the Applaud digital recorder I have. It's a tool. And if you use a tool smartly and you use a tool for what it's valued at, you'll go. AI takes pretty much every damn tool you've ever used in your life, and then it listens and instructs. The problem with AI now is there's multiple things, and everybody goes to ChatGPT and says, help me rewrite my resume, or tell me the best places to visit in St. Martin. That's fine. But it's how you present what you're trying to get and how you refine what you're trying to get out of AI that makes you the leader. So you can embrace it. Right? You can embrace AI technology, or you can say, "Oh, I'm not touching that. It's going to have my job in 2 years." Or you can be a dumbass and say, "Oh, help me write a letter."
right? So Canon, for example, has a very clear policy, and I think you're starting to see a lot of companies have policies about AI indications towards their business. But Canon's policy is very simple: no outbound communication to a customer can be generated from AI. It's a terminable offense because it doesn't tell the story, right? And we still, I think, as leaders, we have a responsibility to use the tool. I can use the tool. I can rewrite. I can add animation. I can make it look better. I can make it more intelligent. I could use it as a reference point. But I can't just take what AI gives me and says, here you go. What I personally am starting to do now, and I started out with language, was to kind of, here's what I wrote, make it better, make it more conservative, make it more advanced, put some stuff into it. And then you get it and you tweak it. It's no different than Larry calling Chris on the phone and say, hey, I got a problem. I got this one damn customer, and, they're price sensitive and we're losing our shirt and they don't want to be part of it. What do you say? Right? And I'll give you some input. Well, you're not going to do what I tell you. You're going to listen. You may incorporate it into your communications or your thought process. And to me, that's kind of where I see the future going. At light speed, yes, but also at crawling speed, right? I think companies, some company might say, and I don't want to get off on an AI tangent because it's all opinion at this point, but, we use it for determining getting the right parts in the right location based on data, machine learning, right? Okay, I know this guy's got 14 million feet a month, and he's got this machine that's this old. I got this technician that has this rating. This is his, his income. I mean, you take all of that and you throw it in a barrel, and AI will say, okay, I need these parts in that location on this day and replenish it on this day when this happens, right? So that impact of AI, I think, is farther advanced than the humanization of what you could do with it. And as leaders, it's tough because everybody's like, I don't, I got different extreme. I got a 38-year-old that's killing it, third highest quota in the company, and I got a 65-year-old who just runs the biggest accounts. He don't want to hear about it. He thinks it's going to solve all the problems. So our job as leaders to kind of bring it into focus.
Yeah, and on a younger scale, my 15-year-old granddaughters, they use it every day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, just secondhand. I said, this is very nice paper. I said, how'd you put all this together? So I did most of it on AI.
Yeah. Well, it's it's also scary, right? So
very scary.
Listen, I've made a comfortable life. I've raised children. We've raised children, married daughters off with digital technology, right? Larry, you and I have been in digital. I've been in it since 1999. And I think it hurts, right? It hurts the interpersonal skill. It hurts your mind from thinking. It just, I've seen some Saturday Night Live skits that just are so scary from 20 years ago. And you're like, good God, that's the damn truth right there. But we have, I think as leaders, we have a responsibility to make sure that it doesn't proliferate what's already a problem with digital technology, and that's communication skills.
Oh, here again, the art of listening's gone, and
Yep.
people, they're not listening to understand. They're listening to answer, or communicate. They just want to spit out what they know or what they have, without really sitting there and they listening to the whole conversation. Well, what do you think about the future entrepreneurs? Because we were basically brick and mortar entrepreneurs,
Yep.
so to speak. And now they're sitting behind a screen, and then they making money, and or supposedly be making money, So how do you see the new entrepreneurs are going to take place?
What a great question. So I'm sucked into the Instagram vortex, right? I got rid of all that stuff, and I can get rich anywhere from cleaning out garbage cans with a trailer to having side hustles on Amazon.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from my father, and I learned a lot from other entrepreneurs. My uncle was an entrepreneur, and I think the future of entrepreneurs still is got the same underpinnings of bricks and mortar, right? Number one, don't illusion yourself that you're going to be on top and make the most money and drive the Maserati to work, which I used to do, but only after 10 years, right?
and not have to do the hard work. My father used to say, "You will never work as hard as you do for yourself."
Yep,
You got to
yep.
get up every morning and you look yourself in the mirror, and you must, to be a leader, to be an entrepreneur, you must sacrifice. There's many months in the 17-year history of my company that I didn't take a paycheck.
Right.
I took a second and third mortgage on my home to
Right.
pay suppliers. I made sure that every single person that worked for me, every single person, I mean, we ballooned up to 375 people. I never missed a paycheck, even at my own, when I didn't take one for months. And they still look at your car and look at your house, and that bastard's getting rich. So to answer your question, as an entrepreneur, it's almost easier to run the damn business than it is to run. The hardest resource to manage is human resource, right? So the entrepreneurs of tomorrow, yeah, you can use AI and you can use digital technology, and it's no harder working on a press and getting ink on your fingers or toner on your shirt or stamping your damn finger in a booklet maker than it is having 5 monitors and running a digital business. But you got to do the same thing. You still got to make sure that you work hard. You don't you never turn it off. It's 24 hours a day. You don't sleep, for the love of God, because you're worried about stuff. It doesn't matter if a guy's got an Amazon hustle on the side and he's selling products or he's doing podcasts or whatever. You still don't, So I don't think that's changed. But what I'm a little concerned with, and my middle son-in-law is starting a gig right now, a pickleball gig, and he wants to run at 100 miles an hour, and he thinks this, and this. I said, all right, let's slow down. You still need a business plan, right? And you can go to get AI and help you write one, but it doesn't know where you're going to stub your toe. You still got to worry about capital. You still got to sit in front of a banker, whether it's digitally or not. You still got to get money to do certain things. So the entrepreneur of tomorrow should slow down, right? Look at what you have to do and understand the commitment and understand that, God, you're going to work just as hard as you did. I also believe that there's still opportunities for bricks and mortar guys to support those other businesses. So in my mind, the entrepreneur of today has a lot of opportunity, right? There's so much you could do. You can be anywhere on either side of the business. You can be the guy sitting in a room with 20 screens and running all this stuff, or you could be the guy that owns a warehouse that's shipping that guy's product, or you can be a technology guy, or you can be somebody that runs podcasts. There's so much, but the premise of being an entrepreneur, and this is a responsibility I think we have, Larry, and people like us, is, guys, you still have the basic, being a successful entrepreneur requires a lot of skills, and it's not for everybody, and everybody wants to do it, but few people want to, they walk away from stuff, and you and I, we couldn't walk away. I couldn't walk. My life would have been destroyed. I would have been living in a cardboard box in 53rd Street in Midtown Manhattan if that happened. So, the real thing for entrepreneurs now is just be careful, man, and understand what you got to do to get there. And if we can help them, we can help them. Maybe that's a side gig, Larry. We'll open up a little consulting business.
Well, maybe. We love talking to people. Of course, we know everything. So
yeah, of course, seen it all.
But here again, that's going to, in the very first part of the conversation, then we'll start ending this. I had mentioned that the kids today, they do not understand money.
Yeah.
They don't. And I'm telling you, and thank goodness I had some kind of sense about money, because, boy, I'm telling you, if you, just like you said, you had somebody basically rob you.
Yep.
And then you had to get with customers, and then you knew that you had to do these steps, if not, your ass had been out of business.
Yep.
But you did.
Yep.
You got through it, and
builds character.
Builds character.
It's tough to make those phone calls. It's the worst.
It is.
I'll just share something really quick because we had this little talk, you and I, about what's critical. In my business, 50% was third-party manufacturing of photo specialty, like Shutterfly and Minted and Costco. And 24% of my revenue, over $20 million, came in 4 weeks. 4 weeks. Think about that. So the preparation for that was you're laying out all this money and you're bringing these people into your plants and you're doing all this stuff, and it's make it or break it. So
you have to manage your money. To your point, you have to manage your people. You have to, and then there's the end of it. Everybody's like, oh, and it's measured in the amount of time between Thanksgiving and Christmas. This is a fact. You ask anybody in the digital photo business, they'll tell you. The less time there is, the more time and the more business you get. So, Merry Christmas from the Vaughns, Happy New Year from the Petros, those little cards and your little photo books and all that. If there's less time between Thanksgiving and Christmas, that business is booming. Booming. Like, you're doing double because you know why? Larry's like, oh, sugar, I got to get that out before Christmas. Let's get it now. The more time, the business goes in the tank. Literally 50% of what you forecasted. And I remember very distinctly, we started our business in 1999. In 2011, it was the longest distance between those two holidays. And millions of dollars I spent in boxes and ink and people and stuff. And you start that weeks and weeks before the season, and you're waiting for the big day to come, and it didn't come. And 3 days into it, I'm like, oh my God, there's no business. The presses are not running. The people are twiddling their thumbs. And, the buses of part-time people are coming and going. I went home, and my wife showed me there was none of those Merry Christmas cards on the door that we always glued. She said, that's the problem. And it was the worst year and the only year we spilled red ink at Global Soft. And I'll never forget the day that my controller walked in my office. He said, Chris, you know what the definition of bankrupt is? I said, what's that? He goes, well, it's when you owe more than is owed you. And I said, well, thank you, Mr. Hughes. He goes, you're bankrupt. And it was a shock to me. And I had to I had planned, I called all my leaders in a room, and I said, guys, I need you to rank your people from 1 to 20. Yeah. And we're coming back tomorrow. And they came back tomorrow, and I said, 1 through 5 has to go. And there was tears, and, these people that have been loyal to me and our company for all these years, and I get choked up talking about it. They said, well, hold on, let us figure something out. And the next day we had another meeting, and they said, we've come up with an idea we'd like to present to you. I said, what's that idea? He said, well, we decided that all the part-time people are going to work 40 hours a week, and they're only going to take pay for 30 hours. This is in peak season, right? They're getting ready for the yearbook peak, the next peak. And all of us salaried folks are going to move into exempt. We're going to be part-time. We're going to come off that. And we're going to cover. We're going to all work 40, 50 hours a week until we can get our feet on the ground. And I like to break down and cry because these people put their lives on hold for a business. And that's what leadership's about. They got together as leaders. They talked to each other. And I will tell you, the next year was our best year. We went from red ink to black ink, and 2 years later, 3 years later, we were in a position to start thinking about selling. And it was all because of those people got together. So I believe as a leader, your job is to bring the humanization of business and entrepreneurial spirit out in people, and then you watch it bloom. You talked about that, Larry. You talk about that all the time. You watch it bloom in people, right? You talk about all those people we worked with, and back in the days of D-Scoop and Think, and now, and all the best people on those boards are people that think about how they can make that happen, how they can make others better. And I'm not trying to be holier than now. It's not a crucible. It's just reality. It's a responsibility to pass it on. That's how we can help them. So wanted to share that story. That moves me to the day I die. And when I write my book, like you did, I'm going to put that one in there. So.
Oh, do it. And if you need any help putting stuff in, just let me know, and I'll give you some.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, my God. Well, Chris Petro, I love you to death.
Love you too, brother.
It's always so much fun talking to you, and, I just can't wait till we get to see each other again so we can sit and laugh and joke and talk about everybody. So
we'll see you at Think in the summertime. How's that?
Oh, yeah, I'll be there.
All right, let's go.
Me and the bride will be there, and, and she's always fun to be with, and
love her like a sister. You give her a big kiss, and thank you for the opportunity to share. I wish you success in your podcast. It's
thank you.
It's awesome, and you'll be successful because you did your own thing. So I know that.
Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. But I just like talking to people and hearing their stories, and and helping other people.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
exactly what I did. But it's been fabulous. It surely has, and I'm so glad I got an opportunity. And I surely appreciate you being on my podcast. And hopefully, I can invite you again. And you
Anytime, be my honor. Someday I may ask you to be on one for me. We'll see.
Oh, that'd be great. I'd love to.
Depends how things go at Canon right now. We're a little crazy.
Yeah, it does.
We'll be
All
fine.
right, buddy.
Peace, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, talk to you
All right.
later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
If you're enjoying the Larry Vaughn Show, don't forget to give the episode a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell to ensure you never miss a new episode.